Good morning. While I was meditating just a little bit ago, what sort of came to me as a potential direction for this channel, that's just so weird, is to just talk about what my life is about, like what I do from sun up to sundown, ideally all during that time, but admittedly not all during that time. I mean, I fall into unconsciousness. But just to talk about that and the direction that I want my life to go in is to release what binds me, to let go of the chains that I have kept on myself and keep on myself, to start looking at it more closely and letting those go. And the way that I've been working with that the past, maybe not year, is with Michael Singer's technique, which he doesn't really call a technique, of relax and release, which he talks about in his books. The Untethered Soul is the one that comes to mind immediately. And then in some of his YouTube talks, he talks about it too. And I love a technique, and I know it's the mind that loves a technique, but I can't help it. Like, I just really need that. It's something to use until you realize that you never needed it, and then you can drop it. But I haven't yet realized that I don't need a technique, so I'm using it for now. And I think, how I'll just sort of direct things for a while with my videos is just talking about my experience with the relax and release technique and how it affects my life. I guess a little backstory on my practice up until now has been, maybe for the past seven years, I've been meditating hard, meditating seriously. For the first few years, I was doing a couple hours a day, which, I don't know, for me might have been necessary, and it might still be necessary for me to do that, just to build that concentration, to stay on one thing in order to see things in my life that come up that I otherwise wouldn't or may not have seen. So it's just a practice, I mean, that really is it, a meditation practice. During the hour that I sit in the mornings, I'm practicing being present. I'm practicing staying here and watching, because that practice over time builds up and spills into life, and you're able to watch life with the same presence as you've practiced in meditation. I don't know if I would be able to see this stuff without having meditated and built up concentration. Maybe that's just me, maybe that's for most people. But, so yes, the relax and release is just to remain watching during the day as things happen, as life unfolds. And instead of mostly watching the outside events and happenings, I'm watching the inside happenings when the outside hits it. In other words, when a trigger comes along, and Michael Singer would call that a samskara. Just, what is a trigger? It's just an event that happens that you have a history with, that I have a history with. I've built something in my mind that says yes or no to a certain event that happens. And when that event happens, it triggers a cascade of events inside of my experience. Whether it's fear that arises or anger that arises, these real fiery, immediate emotions. Something like jealousy that's not so immediate. It's not so 1 second you're fine and the next second you're in the inferno. It's, anger is that way. It's just a instantaneous flash. So my job is to watch when things happen outside, to not let all of my attention go to the outside. Oh, that shouldn't have happened. What do I do in order to make that go away? Because that's just placating the child in me that has this, that's holding on to this issue, this trigger, this samskara, to try to fix it on the outside. It doesn't work, and it won't work, and it can't work, and it would never work, even though I've practiced it that way for my whole life, pretty much, up until recently. And that's true for most of us. We do things in a way that is never, ever going to help, but it just feels like the natural path of least resistance. It's the practiced response, and it's hard to break that, but it's breakable, and you can't do it by looking to the outside. You have to look at the inner workings, the mechanisms inside that happen, this cascade of events. And when that stimulus outside happens, immediately, let's come up with an example. I need examples when I'm learning something. I appreciate Michael Singer because he often gives examples. He doesn't give them as absolutely detailed as I would like, but that's just me, and the way he presents it, it is more applicable to a broader audience, I think. But I like very detailed examples like this. Let's say in my day, somebody says something to me like, well, I wish you would have done it this way instead. Okay, so hearing those words come in, and I don't really have a scenario here as to what that person might be talking about, but it doesn't really matter. I wish you would have done it this way instead. Boom, the initial thing that comes in is they are saying that I screwed up. And that's going to trigger anger. Okay, so boom, they say that, and immediately I want to look. The natural impulse in me is to look at that person and say, what the hell is wrong with you? I didn't do anything wrong. That's the right way to do it. So that's the normal reaction. But that's so boring, because I've done that so many times and it never ever leads anywhere good. I'm now willing to experiment and look inside instead of outside. So I watch inside when that person says that, and immediately, through practice now, my attention, part of it, at least part of it, goes inward and sees, boom, anger is coming up. And I know what anger does to me. Anger makes me want to more go to the outside. It almost pushes me out of my internal experience to the outside world. I need to change something outside so that I feel better inside, which doesn't work. So watching that, I know that's coming. I know that's coming. When I feel anger coming, I know it's going to tell me to go make it better on the outside. So boom, there it is. There's that push. I'm feeling it. It's telling me to go outside, but I'm not going to. I'm going to stay inside and watch this some more, and it's very uncomfortable to be in there when that's happening. So and there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of strong, fiery energy in there, and it's not a normal thing to want to stand in that. But as much as I can, I do stand in it, feel it, and just experience it and say, here it is. This is a chance to let go of stuff, glue that's in me, sticky, yucky stuff in me. It's my chance to let some of that go. It's not going to feel good. In fact, it doesn't. Here it is. It doesn't. All the voices in me are telling me to take this to the outside, get rid of this. But I can just be with it. If I'm talking with somebody and they're talking to me, I'm listening to what they're saying, but inside I'm also just staying present. I'm staying present inside. I'm not letting my thoughts go fully to the emotion and want to do something about it. I'm experiencing the emotion. I'm hearing what they're saying, and maybe my attention, my willful attention is on the inner body, just the sensations in my hands, buzzing, tingling sensations in my hands. I just try to hold my attention there while not pushing away anything. Trickier when it's a conversation. When I'm alone, like in the car, let's say somebody cuts me off or pulls out in front of me, boom, immediately there's that same anger. It's the same exact anger as if a person says, I wish you would have done things differently. It's the same anger. And it's telling me to take it to the outside world, honk at that person, yell at them, even if it's with my windows up and they can't hear me, yell at them, put it on them. It's like a lightning rod, this energy comes up and you want to throw it to somebody else. I don't like this, you take it. But to just watch it and say, okay, here's anger, it's coming up, I know what it's going to do. It's going to tell me, and yep, there it is. It's telling me to take it to the outside world. I'm not going to do it because I know that never effing works. I'm going to sit here with it while I'm driving. Maybe my attention goes to a mantra. That's sort of my go-to the past number of months, is just to start a mantra in my mind. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, and just repeat that while I'm feeling this emotion. I'm feeling it, but I'm not getting into the story that the mind wants to weave around this energy, around this emotion, because that's well practiced too. The mind always wants to come up with a reason, a story, and you can bet I know that story is going to have to do with changing the outside so that this inside sensation goes away. It all comes back to that. And my goal with this practice is to stay with the emotion until it dissipates, until it's digested, and just relax instantly. Boom, here it comes. They cut me off. I know the tendency of the body is to tense up, so relax the shoulders, chest, abdomen, butt, and go to the mantra without pushing away this energy. You're just relaxing and going to the mantra and digesting this strong energy, being with it, instead of wanting to be somewhere else, away from it, or wanting to give it to somebody else. That's the practice. It's hard, and it's all inside. Nobody knows that I'm doing this. And there are infinite chances every day to do this. It's just a matter of spotting them. And I think the longer I do it, the more I do it, the more these chances reveal themselves, the quieter ones. The obvious ones are obvious. The huge triggers, the big samskaras are obvious. But those, like Michael Singer says, those are sometimes way too big to work with. It's like going to the gym. You know, if you can only bench press 150 pounds, you can't do 160. And if a problem comes along, a samskara comes along that weighs 160, you're not going to be able to move it with your practice, just as a weird metaphor. But you practice with the ones that are like 151 if all you can do is 150. Oh, okay, I can, it's close, it's close, it's close. The 149 problems, I can handle those. Not easily, because it's close to my maximum. So the more 149 problems that I have, the better, because then that enables me to get to 151 and 152. So, and you know, the ones that are even lesser than that, the 100s or 80s or whatever, those build confidence. Those, through repetition, build a confidence that I can do this. So it just all is like an exercise routine where you're improving yourself, you're increasing your maximum of what you can work through, digest, process, handle. I don't even remember where I was going with that. It seemed like I had somewhere to go, but so that's my practice, is just to work with whatever comes along. And yes, the littler things enable me to do the bigger things. Michael Singer calls the lower things the low-hanging fruit, the smaller ones that you can handle, the low-hanging fruit. Just work with those. And what you're doing is you're not adding any of those little things on. You're not getting more samskaras. You're working with the ones you can handle. And eventually you'll be able to handle the ones that you can't currently handle, because you're working with the ones that you can handle. Over time, you get stronger. That's my goal. And I guess just maybe that's what I'll be talking about in these videos, is things that happened in my day, how I screwed up without blame, because this isn't easy. This isn't easy. Another Michael Singer metaphor is playing the piano is not easy. If someone tells you to sit down at the piano and you don't know how to play it, wants you to sit down and play Beethoven, you're not going to be able to do that. But what you can do is learn to play the piano, and you don't start with Beethoven, you start with the scales. The scales aren't Beethoven, but the scales will allow you to eventually play Beethoven, and you can't play Beethoven until you learn to play the scales. You just start where you are. You can't start where you're not. So work with things how they are right now, right here. This is where we begin. Good morning.